Hi, everyone, and welcome to Okta 101 for Nonprofits. I'm Ali Kozel, and I will be your host for today. We have three awesome customer speakers who will be sharing their stories during today's session. But before I hand it over to them, I'd like to go back in time a bit when this was our biggest problem, protecting our network perimeter. This old way of thinking assumes that our trusted network was protected by the network perimeter. Anything inside of that network was safe, and anything outside was untrusted. But this was problematic because when that perimeter is breached, an attacker has relatively easy access to all of the company's sensitive data. This is also problematic because the way of the world has changed dramatically. Not only are people accessing your resources from more locations than ever with working from home policies due to the pandemic and the increase to dynamic work, but with the move to the cloud, your sensitive data is now also outside of the traditional perimeter. In our most recent Businesses at Work report, you can see here that the adoption of these cloud applications is continuing to grow year over year. In addition, the average number of applications per organization is also growing exponentially. Organizations are deploying more tools and more cloud applications than ever before. So, how do you solve for security when you can't just throw up a firewall around your business? Most people rely on a password, or if you're really creative, maybe a password. But we know that passwords are not secure. 8 out of 10 data breaches involve some sort of credential issue, and that statistic gets even scarier when you think about the number of duplicate passwords. I know we're all guilty of reusing passwords from time to time. So if passwords aren't secure, in order to protect our data, we have to rely on additional context about our user before granting access to applications. Let's walk through an example. Say your employee Jen is trying to access her work applications. If you're only using a password and both Jen and an attacker have access to her username, her email, and her super creative password, then both would be able to access Jen's applications pretty easily. But if you require a second piece of context, in this case, a second factor, maybe a biometric or a push notification to an additional device, you're able to ensure that the real Jen is who she says she is and is able to access the right resources, and the attacker is denied access. So as you can see, identity and access management enables you to be more secure and more efficient, both for your IT team and your end users. So how do you put this into practice for your business? We created an identity and access management maturity curve to help you understand both how protected your organization is from attacks and how far along you are in adopting these best security practices. Now, most organizations begin at stage 0. So they have an on-premises directory, maybe an AD or an LDAP. They have on-prem apps. They're starting to adopt some cloud apps, but those things aren't all necessarily connected yet. In stage 1, they're beginning to wrap their arms around the whole ecosystem. They're starting to use something like SSO to see and get visibility into their users and all their applications. They're starting to layer in MFA on top of that and making sure that the policy engine is across not only cloud apps, but their on-prem apps and servers as well. Now, most organizations that we talk to are falling somewhere in between stage 0 and 1. So if you're seeing this and thinking this sounds like your organization, don't worry, you're in the right place. But then once you have that good visibility from SSO, that's when organizations are starting to layer in things like contextual access. And this is really important for today in our remote environment because, as we talked about earlier, you can't control the network perimeter. We can use things like device and geography and then prompt different users for different factors in different scenarios. This is also where we start to look at automated provisioning. Lifecycle management is not just an efficiency tool, it's also a security tool, because if someone leaves your organization, you need to be able to revoke that access immediately. And lastly, stage 3 is getting to a true adaptive workforce, which is where we're extending some of that access-based policy into a more holistic picture of risk. We're starting to use machine learning based risk engine to evaluate, and that's where you're setting policies based on risk rather than discrete pieces of context. This is also where we're getting into things like continuous authentication and considering passwordless. But this doesn't happen overnight. It's a long, winding road, and we're here to help. With our nonprofit product offering, we provide 50 free licenses of our workforce identity products to all validated nonprofit organizations, and a 50% discount on top of that for any additional users or products. But we don't want to just offer you free products and send you on your way. We want to partner with you to make sure that you understand how to implement Okta for your organization and connect it to any current and future applications that you're planning to deploy. So we offer deep discounts to our public training courses and also eligibility for our pro bono professional services. But I realize that you're probably taking everything I've said with a grain of salt, as I'm an Okta employee on an Okta stage talking about Okta. So without further ado, I want to hand it over to two of our customers who are going to talk about their technology journeys. First up, Jim. Jim, take it away.
Thanks, Sally. Before I jump into my Okta presentation, let me tell you a little about myself. My name is Jim McKinney. I'm the Senior Director of Global ICT at TechnoServe. After I graduated from university, I desperately wanted to live in Africa, so I found a small foundation set up in Zimbabwe who would sponsor me to come and teach math and science in a rural high school in Zimbabwe. So after traveling and teaching for a year, I then decided I wanted to see more of Africa, so I hitchhiked and backpacked all through East and Southern Africa. When I returned to the States after running out of money, I had the privilege of meeting Ed Bullard, who is the late founder and president of TechnoServe. And after speaking with him, it was clear that TechnoServe needed someone in technology to help them. There was no one there working in IT. So in 1990, I wrote my job description, IT intern, and they hired me. And little did I know that I'd spend most of my career at TechnoServe. I've been working at TechnoServe for 22 years. Yeah, it's hard to believe, 22. I can't believe it. But I did take a break from TechnoServe for 8 years. In 1996, I left and I worked for for-profit companies. I worked at a high-tech manufacturing firm. I also worked at a regional retail firm, and I worked at an IT professionals company and a managed professional services. And there I gained a lot of experience in large systems and a lot of server work, but I sort of missed the nonprofit feel. And so in 2004, when my friend and acting president of TechnoServe called me, he asked, if I knew anyone who would want to run the systems at TechnoServe, and I said, yeah, how about me? So I ended up going back to TechnoServe then. TechnoServe, it's not a well-known name, so let me tell you about TechnoServe. TechnoServe's mission is to work with enterprising people in developing world to build competitive farms, businesses, and industries. Our vision is to be the most effective catalyst and partner of transformative, on-the-ground, market-based solutions to poverty. Basically, we help people in developing countries develop businesses that they can then help themselves when they become more productive and more profitable. So TechnoServe's been in business for over 50 years. We work in 28 countries right now. I've got about 1,800 accounts in Okta, and we're $82 million a year right now in revenue. So back to 2004. So when I returned to TechnoServe, it was a little weird. I returned to the same office I had left 8 years before. And what I found was they were running the same servers that I had built before I left. And so the first thing I did was install a Microsoft Small Business Server. And we had about 75 users at the time. We had two offices. We had the headquarters in Connecticut, and we had a very small office in DC. There were no centralized applications across the organization. The US had an accounting system, and we had this homegrown database application that would consolidate the accounts from the field. And there was me, the IT staff then. In the field offices, there were 10 of them. Most of them had some standalone PCs. A few of the larger offices had a local area network, and they had their own email domain. And they each had different accounting systems. Some of them were using QuickBooks, some of them used a database program that we had written in the 90s to run their accounts. But all the offices would send us a floppy disk each month, and then we would receive them via DHL and then load them into the consolidated accounts. So that was our picture. We were pretty low tech at the time. And we were about 300 employees. In 2004, we were $16 million, and as I said, 10 offices. 2005 came, and we started a 10-year period of growth that we grew steadily over those 10 years. And you can see in 2005, we jumped to 450 employees, and we were $22 million in revenue. So a few more years of steady growth. And by 2009, we were 550 employees and $47 million. And we were barely keeping things together at that point. And it was clear we need to centralize our applications. And so the first thing we did was we decided to centralize the accounting system. So we hired a second IT staff. We built a VMware environment. We purchased Serenic Navigator. And we moved all the finance staff around the world to Active Directory, and so that they could access Serenic Navigator through a Citrix server that I had in VMware. And so that was successful. We were beginning to become more efficient using centralized accounting, and so we could continue to grow. By 2011, we had 21 countries of operation. We had 12 different email domains, if you can imagine that. The larger offices in the field developed their own email and hosting, and we were $56 million. And it was clear with all the countries and with those email systems that we had to have a centralized email system. And so we decided to go with Google and G Suite. And at the time, Office 365 didn't even exist. And so we hired another staff. We ended up migrating all the offices to Gmail and to our Active Directory. And in order for that to work, I built with a small firm a custom tool that allowed us to use AD as the system of record. And it used the Google APIs to provision and deprovision the accounts in Google. So we could create accounts in Active Directory and it would flow to Google. And that worked for us, and we continued to go and continued to grow. And so by 2014, we were 23 countries and we were 1,200 employees with a revenue of $76 million. So we had some challenges as we continued to grow. In 2013, we implemented Epicore, and that was an on-prem HRIS system. And we put that up in our VMware environment, and then we allowed the field office's HR staff to log into Epicore and create users. And Epicore would then send our help desk emails every time a person was added or left the company. And then we would manually go to Active Directory and add users and deprovision users. So our tool was still working, but it sort of limited us to any type of growth. We were caught, and we had 1,200 accounts, but at TechnoServe, we have people coming and going in the field all the time. When projects ramp up, we would hire people, and then when projects would end after 2 or 3 years, we would lower the number of staff. And so I had to dedicate one of my IT staff to account management. And so he would sit at the help desk, receive all the emails, and provision and deprovision and give permissions to those accounts as they came on. So it was very inefficient. We also wanted to use the hybrid computing environment. There were more SaaS solutions coming at the time, and we wanted to sort of branch out and make the organization more efficient with new applications. So then in 2015, we were able to identify that if we rolled out Okta, we would be able to move into this hybrid computing environment much quicker. And so that's what we did. In the first quarter, we implemented Okta and replaced that homegrown tool that we had. And pretty quickly, just a few months later, we were able to develop and roll out a pipeline tool in Salesforce. And then a few months later, we were able to roll out Certify, which is a SaaS expense report system for US and expats. And so Okta allowed us to move quickly to these other apps and centralize them around our company. So Epicore was still there, and we still had a person dedicated to that. But Okta provided us an SSO, like I said, so that we could leverage new apps. We also did a lot of work. We moved offices multiple times. We moved from a VMware environment. I migrated the servers up to AWS. And so we were working along the way because Okta freed up time for us. So then in 2018, we had another big step forward as we replaced Epicore HCM with UltiPro. And with Okta's integration to UltiPro, we were able to make it the master user directory. And with the integration, our field staff could load employees and contractors into UltiPro, and then it would flow to Okta, which then would push to Active Directory and our Sarenic app and Google and Salesforce. And so that freed up that staff member and really helped us continue to grow. In 2020, we rolled out Data Basics in the first quarter. Data Basics is a time and expense system, and it's integrated in Okta, and that's been a big help for us. And we also rolled out Frevo late last year, which is a workflow tool, which allows us to build forms and do approvals in their SaaS solution, and then integrate that data into Sarenic. But also last year, really important, we were given a donation from Okta for Good. They give us 20 hours of pro bono professional services. And that was so instrumental for us and really helpful. We were able to roll out MFA across the entire organization with their help. We worked on configuring it and rolling it out to all our field users in Africa, Latin America, and India in about 3-4 weeks. And so that was incredibly successful, and it dramatically improved our security using their MFA tools at Okta. So we also used the pro bono services to integrate Frevo. Frevo was not part of the Okta applications, but they helped us customize and allow us to provide security and integrate into Frevo. So at the end of last year in December, I met with the Okta for Good people, and we ran some statistics and numbers, and we wanted to estimate the impact that Okta had on TechnoServe. And what we came up with was that each year we save about 1,083 hours of provisioning and deprovisioning with the Okta tool. We save about 676 hours for the password resets, so people aren't doing those resets because of the self-service, and that translates into saving about 252 tickets each year of that help desk changing passwords and resets. Finally, because of their integration to the other applications and tools that we use, we estimated about 250 hours of integration maintenance that Okta has saved us. So you can see that Okta has been instrumental for us. So what's next for TechnoServe? We've got to finish the full deployment of the expense report module from Data Basics. We've rolled out all of Africa and Mexico to date, and so we have to finish Latin America and India. We hope to do that in the next few months. We also are fully automating our procurement process with Frevo, and this is a complex project. It requires us to build forms at different stages and get approvals and push the data into Sarenic Navigator using the XML port. So that's going to take us several months as we work through that. And finally, I'm hoping to look at Okta workflow and lifecycle features that have come out since we've implemented it. I'm interested to see if they can make us even more efficient in the creating of accounts and deprovisioning of accounts. So I want to thank Okta for this opportunity to talk to you, and I want to turn it over now to Channa Sweet of the United Way Bay Area. Thank you.
Hi there, I'm Channa Sweet. I'm the Senior Director of Individual Giving at United Way Bay Area. You'll be hearing from my colleague about our technology journey and how Okta has elevated our organization. But first, I want to set the stage and just talk a little bit about United Way Bay Area and why Okta is so important for our organization. Now, I have been with United Way for about 4 years, and I'm really passionate about the work that we do because my United Way journey actually started off as a client. When I moved to the Bay Area 6 years ago, I was working 2 jobs, I was working an internship, and I was really struggling to stay afloat just to pay bills. And I found a United Way service, and I got my taxes done for free that year. And while that might not seem like this transformational event, for someone living in poverty, even a seemingly small event can be a catalyst for a brighter future. And now you've probably heard of United Way, and I'm sure there's one in your community. We are in over 40 countries and territories. And although we have a really large brand, the beauty of United Way is that we get to remain hyper local. So we focus on the unique issues that each community faces. So in the Bay Area, we cover 8 counties, and our mission is all about fighting poverty in the Bay Area. So the programs that we focus on 3 different areas of work. So first, we empower young adults in their career and employment. For example, we have programs that help young adults do things like mock interviews, resume writing, professional clothing drives, career exploration, and more. And secondly, we know that it's expensive to live in the Bay Area. And so we focus on providing basic needs for our community. These are things like food and shelter and providing support with utility bills. And especially this past year with COVID, we know that basic needs and the necessity for supporting has been exacerbated. And so we are committed to continuing our support around basic needs. And lastly, we support financial education and stability work to help people move up the economic ladder. Now, one of my favorite programs is our free tax prep program. And I want to dive into a little bit of the numbers before passing it off to my colleague. So this is our Earn It, Keep It, Save It program. Looking at the numbers here, 228 tax sites. That represents the number of on-site locations that you can get your taxes done for free. Those taxes are done by 2,700 volunteers that are trained and certified by the IRS. And all of that work equates to about 78,000 taxes, which brings back $82 million in refunds to the pockets of low and moderate income families in the Bay Area. That's pretty incredible. And these are our statistics from a pretty standard year. And as we all know, last year was not that. We had to pivot all of our in-person programs, and like all of you have as well. And this is where technology has become vitally important for us as an organization. With this program, we were able to shift our work and partner with organizations like Code for America. Internally, as a nonprofit, it was only because of the strong partnerships we had with technology companies like Okta that enabled us to use all of our resources to stay a seamless organization to continue to provide the services that our community has learned to rely on. One of the ways that we stay relevant is adapting to the changing digital landscape. And we look for the newest and best technologies to keep up with the trends. And with that, I will pass it to my colleague Sarahvon to talk about our technology journey.
Thank you, Channa. Hello, everyone. My name is Sarahvon Buenavista, and I'm the Director of IT Operations here at UWBA. I'm excited to be here. A big thank you to Okta for the opportunity to tell our story. I have a picture of Golden Gate Bridge here because I grew up in the city. I attended Lowell High School and received my BS degree in Information Systems at San Francisco State University. After college, I began my career at UWBA and worked my way through roles including Combined Federal Campaign, HR, Information and Referral, which is now called 211. After 3 years, I was recruited to the IT department, and I have been there ever since, now going on 30 plus years. I love our mission, our values, and my coworkers, and that's why I'm still here. With IT, there's never a dull moment, and I'm passionate about helping drive transformational change at UWBA to be the modern United Way. To help make the impact to the community is very rewarding to me. And now I'll show you our technology journey. I've seen the digital transformation of UWBA firsthand. We started with basic workgroup environment. In 1990, we moved to Novell NetWare with Token Ring and MS-DOS. Anyone remember them? I might be dating myself. In the early 2000s, we migrated to Microsoft Windows Server architecture in the Microsoft Office suite. And in 2017, we upgraded to Office 365 and then extended our network to the cloud with finance and CRM software as a service apps and work from anywhere model. And in 2019, we implemented Okta. Although we are a nonprofit organization, it's critical that we invest resources into technology areas like cybersecurity. We receive questionnaires and audit documents from partners and corporations seeking to validate our security practices and policies. In order to work with partners like Federal Reserve Bank and notable law firms, we have implemented security procedures. Intivix, our IT services partner, recommended Okta as a unified identity solution and enforced multi-factor authentication to access our apps. Okta securely integrated with our main business applications like Office 365 and Salesforce, and we've been very happy with our decision ever since. Now we'll go over our planning process. Planning started in October 2018, and 3 months of intense planning with Intivix team and myself. We took inventory of all our applications. We identified SAML and non-SAML apps. We upgraded licensing for our apps that were SAML compliant to enable federated seamless single sign-on experience for our user base. We identified types of two-factor authentications we wanted to support. We use Okta Verify app for mobile devices, and we purchased YubiKeys for temporary members or for those staff that did not want to use their cell phones. With Okta rollout, management provided cell phone allowance as Okta is our required work tool. One important critical point here, to have upper management buy-in to have a smooth rollout. Our former CEO embraced this security enhancement, which was a big contributor to our success. Rollout completed in 2019. Here I'll talk about our implementation staff. Microsoft Active Directory is our source of truth with Okta integration. We created AD groups based on apps. We had standard apps for basic use like Office 365, Salesforce, My Work Drive, HR, PII security training apps. We also created individual apps like Zoom, DocuSign, Finance app for certain users for certain access. With the granular nature of our setup, it's easy just to pick and choose. We created test groups on different scenarios and apps access. We had interdepartmental users in this pilot group, which was very effective. We developed customized training videos as part of our onboarding process, which we watched together as a group. We had multiple sessions enabling folks to come in at their own convenience. Users brought in their own laptops, set up their own configuration, which makes it really roll out more efficient. We also use gamification to entice users too by giving prizes for complete setup. A few months later, we were formally affiliated with United Way Worldwide. Several UWW team members needed access to our internal resources. With our Okta setup, we were able to quickly enable this secure access with external users, which was a big boom for us. This is a snippet of our UWBA dashboard. Having Okta enables easy access to these apps in all-in-one dashboard. We currently have 18 apps and 10 individual apps. Most of our applications are cloud-based. This makes it so much easier to roll out laptops as you don't need to create shortcuts or transfer favorites because all the apps are already in the Okta dashboard. Okta is also device independent. With this, you have these apps from any supported devices like an iPhone or an iWatch. And we also implemented a company-wide password change enforcing long passphrases. The Okta password reset feature made this process seamless. This was a big help for our user base, especially working remotely. So, what's next for UWBA? As users become more comfortable using Okta, we now have business units wanting to get their apps in a centralized dashboard. For example, marketing recently purchased a new project management tool last December. The software was so well received that other departments wanted to use this tool as well. We simply added the users to the required AD group, and voila, their icon is on their dashboards. And just last month, marketing added more apps on our Okta dashboard. Marketing is one of our big champions. But like many of you, 2020 has changed how we work and where we work from. We had a smooth transition to work from home last March of 2020 and realized that we can work home seamlessly and securely with the infrastructure we have in place. Okta has been a big part of this success story. We recently sent out a survey to our team to see how they feel about returning to the office when safe. 80% are happy to be working at home without the 2 to 4 hour commute or saving money on transportation. Who doesn't want to save money? But we also have a couple of users that would prefer to be at work for lack of space or there's just too many distractions at home. But everybody misses the human interaction where you can just drop in by people's desks or offices or gather during lunchtime. Many of those surveys would like to come in for a once a month all staff meeting or team meetings for collaboration or just some quiet time. We need to acknowledge these realities and meet people where they are. We will continue to invest on more remote technologies for better productivity, including Okta solutions. We will likely recalibrate our office spaces with a more modular drop-in style design. In the near future, I would like to implement Okta Access Gateway for better business continuity. But based on my attendance of last year's Octane 20 virtual conference, I'm interested in learning more about lifecycle management and device authentication, which I think are some real cool tools. And now I would like to give it back to Channa, who will tell you more about new programs at United Way Bay Area. Thank you.
Thanks, Sarah. Yeah, one of the most pressing issues facing California right now is the skyrocketing housing prices. And so United Way is taking a stand. We're going to be unveiling a new housing platform this summer. We're focused on homelessness prevention through rental assistance, eviction protection, and supporting policies to keep people housed. United Way Bay Area is also celebrating our 100-year centennial next year, and we're looking forward to seeing what the next 100 years will bring. We're always looking for new partnerships, so if your company or nonprofit organization would like to partner with United Way, we would be delighted to hear from you. Thank you again, Okta, for this great opportunity and amazing technology. Allie, back to you.
Thanks, Shauna, and thank you all so much for sharing your stories today. I really appreciate your time and your wisdom. And I would love to end this session by just giving the audience a little bit of actionable advice. So I'm going to have all of our speakers share what advice would you give to someone who is just beginning their identity and access management journey? And why don't we start with you, Jim?
Thanks, Allie. I guess my advice would be don't wait. Do it as soon as possible. As you saw in my story, I used a homegrown tool that we use scripts, and while it worked and it was very cost effective, in the long run, it did not save us money and it held us back. So I would recommend any of you thinking about and using it, think about using Okta to implement it quickly. Now at TechnoServe, we had to convince senior management to go with it, and so start that journey now, getting to them to convince to invest in this technology, and you won't regret it because you can quickly secure your network as well as grow in the hybrid into the other SaaS solutions that will help your company. So that would be my advice, Sally.
Thanks, Jim. How about you, Sarahvon? What advice would you give to our audience?
I have three advices. Good planning. Take inventory of your software. You may realize that more software is being used out there than you are aware of. Identify which users need what software and identify which software are SAML compliant. You may upgrade your license level and you may have extra costs. The second advice is test and test and test. Have a pilot test with different departments and have them try different ways to access it. Recruit power users as well as those technological challenge users. Find out what works and doesn't work. You'll get a lot of feedback from users, believe me. And my third advice is training. Make it fun. Have users engage and be interactive. Have some incentives. Use gamification. It works. Develop some champions like Channa.
Channa, how about you from an end user perspective? Any advice for our audience?
Yeah, definitely. I'm happy to give some advice as an end user. I think the biggest piece of advice I would give this group is to just set expectations. You'll definitely feel an initial resistance to change, and I know I'm probably preaching to the choir here because any change is always met with resistance. I remember when we unrolled Okta, it almost felt like a task that we had to do, but because Sarahvon set so clear expectations, it really, really helped to see our team see the bigger picture, and we all got on board. And then the other piece that Sarahvon just mentioned is gamification. Just make it fun, help to get end user buy-in. I mean, who doesn't love free things? And ultimately, I can't live without Okta now. The fact that we can go anywhere and have the same secure and easy access to all of our platforms that we need, especially in this remote work style, is invaluable.
Awesome. Well, thank you all so much for joining us today and for the hard work that you put into your presentations and for being so transparent with our audience about some of the challenges that you faced and how you were able to overcome them at your organizations. And to our audience, thank you for being in attendance today and our first day of Octane 21. We still have 2 more days of incredible content, so stick around, engage with our speakers, and engage with some of the other sessions that are occurring over the rest of this week. Thank you.